When you're fighting silent battles, there are battles you never post about, the kind you fight with a smile on your face and a storm in your chest. You show up for everyone while no one sees what it's costing you. And lately, the quiet moments feel the heaviest, don't they? If you're exhausted from pretending you're okay, if you're tired of being strong in rooms where you wish someone would finally see your weakness, if you're walking through life holding emotions you don't even have the words for, then this message is for you. Because today, God is going to speak into the battles you've been fighting alone. He's going to show you why your silence hasn't gone unnoticed. And He's going to remind you of a strength that doesn't come from pretending, but from being held. Stay with me. This might be the first moment in a long time where your heart finally breathes again. What silent battles really are. The battle beneath your smile. Silent battles are difficult to define because they don't announce themselves. They don't come with alarms, warnings, or visible symptoms. They slip into your life quietly, arriving in the spaces between responsibilities, in the pauses no one else notices, in the minutes right before sleep, or the seconds after you wake up. A silent battle is not loud enough for the world to hear, but strong enough to shake your heart from the inside. It's the kind of struggle that hides inside your thoughts while you're washing dishes, or rides in the passenger seat while you're driving to work. It lives in the tension between what you show others and what you're actually carrying. It's the unspoken weight that settles on your chest even when you are surrounded by people who love you. For many, a silent battle begins the moment you smile when you don't want to. You answer, "I'm okay," when you're anything but. You keep showing up because you know how to function through pressure, even though you don't always know how to rest from it. The world applauds the version of you that keeps going. The dependable one, the responsible one, the strong one, the caring one. But the world rarely sees the cost of being that person. The cost is felt in places no one claps for, in the late-night overthinking, in the tightness behind your eyes, in the sigh you release when the door finally closes, in the quiet fear that you are running out of the strength people assume you have. Silent battles rarely start with tragedy. They begin with small things. A disappointment you didn't talk about, a worry you brushed aside, a moment of exhaustion you ignored because there was no time to fall apart today. These small, unattended emotions become layers. Layers become pressure. Pressure becomes heaviness. And heaviness becomes a battle no one else knows you're fighting. A silent battle is the tension between holding yourself together externally and slowly unraveling internally. It's the weight that builds because you don't want to burden anyone. It's the ache that grows because you don't have a safe space to put your questions. It's the fear that whispers, "What if I never feel like myself again?" Silent battles are fought by people who appear strong, who know how to function, who know how to keep going, but who are quietly carrying more than their hearts were meant to hold alone. You might feel this in your body, the fatigue that doesn't go away, the stress in your shoulders, the restless tension in your breathing. You might feel it in your mind, the racing thoughts, the constant planning, the fear that something will go wrong because you've spent too many seasons being the one who fixes everything. You might feel it in your spirit, the longing for God to speak, the desire for peace, the hope that He will comfort you, mixed with the confusion of not knowing what He's doing. Silent battles live at the intersection of emotion and spirit. They are the places where your fears meet your faith, where your doubts collide with your prayers, and where your strength quietly begins to wear thin. But the most defining part of a silent battle is not the struggle itself. It's the loneliness that surrounds it. You can be in a room full of people and still feel completely alone in what you're carrying. You can have friends who love you, but still feel like no one truly understands your internal world. You can be the pillar, the giver, the encourager, the caretaker, and yet have no one who knows how deeply you're hurting. Silent battles isolate the soul, not because you're hiding on purpose, but because you don't know where to place feelings you don't fully understand. And here's the part most people never say out loud. Silent battles are not fought in one moment. They're fought repeatedly. In the quiet cycles of overthinking, in the unshared worries, in the pauses where you're trying to catch your breath, in the moments you question your strength but don't have the words to ask for help. These battles don't break you quickly. They wear on you slowly. They don't shout. They whisper. They don't explode. They accumulate. But the truth you need to hear is this: silent battles are real battles, and God takes them seriously. Just because your struggle is quiet does not mean heaven is quiet about it. Just because no one else sees the weight does not mean God isn't carrying it with you. Just because your pain doesn't make noise does not mean it goes unnoticed. Psalm 139 tells us, He sees your thoughts before you think them. Psalm 34 says He is close to the brokenhearted. Isaiah 40 says He gives strength to the weary. Matthew 11 says He gives rest to the burdened. Silent battles might be unspoken, but they are never invisible to God. He sees the emotions you're sorting through even when you lack the words. He sees the tears you hide even when you wipe them away quickly. He sees the moments you swallow your feelings because you don't want to weigh anyone down. He sees the nights you can't sleep because your mind won't let you rest. And He is not indifferent to any of it. Silent battles are sacred to God because they reveal where the deepest parts of your soul are hurting. And in those deeply hidden places, God draws closest. He doesn't wait for your pain to become public. He doesn't require you to cry out loudly. He doesn't need your struggle to be visible before He responds. He meets you in the silent places, the unspoken places, the unseen places, the places you don't know how to articulate. Silent battles may not be visible to others, but they are fully visible to the one who formed your heart. And when God sees what is happening inside you, He does not turn away. He moves toward you. He surrounds you. He steadies you. He protects what you cannot even put into words. Your silent battle does not make you weak. It makes you human, and it positions you for a level of intimacy with God that loud seasons could never produce. Silent battles are not the evidence of God's absence. They are the very places where His presence works the deepest. Why silent battles hurt so much? The deep inner weight. You can't explain. Silent battles do not hurt because they are loud. They hurt because they are quiet. If someone yelled at you, you could defend yourself. If life collapsed in one dramatic moment, you could name the problem. If you had a clear enemy or an obvious crisis, you could point to it and say, "Here, this is what's breaking me." But silent battles don't work like that. They don't give you a single moment you can describe. They don't give you a clean narrative you can present to others. They live underneath everything, beneath the responsibilities you carry, beneath the expectations placed on you, beneath the image you maintain, beneath the strength you perform. Silent battles hurt deeply because they attack the places no one sees. They're not loud enough for others to notice, but they're loud enough to disrupt your peace. They're not heavy enough to make you collapse in public, but they're heavy enough to make you break in private. They don't demand attention from the world, but they drain the emotional reserves you need for the world. And perhaps the most painful part? They make you feel misunderstood in a life where you're constantly trying to be strong. If someone asked what was wrong, you wouldn't even know where to begin. How do I explain a heaviness I can't define? How do I ask for help for something I don't fully understand? How do I express exhaustion that didn't start in one moment, but built slowly over time? Silent battles hurt because they force you to carry emotions that were never meant to be carried alone. You become the manager of your own pain, sorting through questions, worries, fears, trying to maintain your normal life while holding a storm inside your chest. The truth is, humans were never designed to contain this much weight. You were never meant to function under pressure with no release. You were never meant to swallow your fears and call it strength. You were never meant to hide your ache and still perform your life flawlessly. Silent battles hurt because they stretch your soul in ways your body cannot see, like emotional muscle tears that eventually weaken the spirit. They also hurt because they follow you everywhere. You can temporarily escape loud problems. You can create distance from toxic people. You can take a break from certain situations, but you can't take a break from your own thoughts. A silent battle travels with you, into your job, into your home, into your conversations, into your sleep, into your faith. Even when you try to distract yourself, the weight returns the moment stillness arrives. And this is why silent battles exhaust you more than loud ones. It's not the intensity, it's the duration. It's not the crisis, it's the constancy. It's not the noise, it's the persistence. You keep showing up for others while your inner world slowly drains. It also hurts because silent battles make you question yourself more than the situation. In visible struggles, you can separate the problem from your identity. But in silent struggles, the lines blur. You start asking things like, why am I like this? Why can't I handle life the way I used to? Why do I feel so overwhelmed by things that never bothered me before? What's wrong with me? These questions don't just add pressure, they create internal shame. Silent battles feed on shame. Shame grows in the dark. And shame convinces you that you should hide the very thing that needs healing. But shame never comes from God. Jesus never shamed the weary. He never criticized the overwhelmed. He never mocked the discouraged. He placed rest before responsibility, comfort before correction, compassion before instruction. And he does the same with you. Silent battles hurt so deeply because they are the places where you secretly fear that God might be silent too. You know in your mind that he is near, but your heart asks, if he's close, and why does this still feel so heavy? If he sees me, why hasn't something changed yet? If he cares, why does the weight remain? These are honest questions, not rebellious ones, not faithless ones, honest ones. And God is not intimidated by honest questions. He is not disappointed by trembling faith. He is not offended by your silent tears. Silent battles hurt not because God is absent, but because God is doing a deep work that can't be rushed. You're not being punished. You're being strengthened in a way only God understands. Silent battles pull truths to the surface you didn't know were buried. Your fear of failing, your fear of disappointing others, your fear of losing control, your fear of being alone, your fear of never being enough. But they also reveal the places where God intends to rebuild you. He wants to replace fear with trust, stress with surrender, exhaustion with rest, self-reliance with dependence on his strength, loneliness with divine companionship, confusion with clarity. God is not ignoring your silent battle. He is allowing it to reveal where he wants to meet you more deeply. Silent battles pierce your heart, but they also prepare your heart. They soften what has become hardened. They quiet what has become chaotic. They open what has been closed. They create space for a deeper encounter with God. Yes, they hurt, sometimes more than anything else. But they also become the very doorway where God steps into your life with gentleness, with truth, with restoration, with presence. Silent battles hurt so much because they touch the part of you that God is healing the most. And that is why this battle, even in its quietness, is not without purpose. A story of someone who fought a silent battle and what God revealed through it. There's a story that reflects the kind of silent battle many people carry. A story not dramatic enough for headlines, not visible enough for concern, but heavy enough to shape a soul. Her name could be anything: Emma, Grace, Maria, Hannah. Because the story isn't about a specific person. It's about anyone who has ever carried a weight they didn't have the words to describe. She was the kind of woman people leaned on. The kind who didn't ask for much, who listened when others needed to talk, who stayed steady when others fell apart. Strong, dependable, resilient. That's how everyone saw her. But inside, a different story was unfolding. Most of her battles didn't happen in public. They happened in the small moments. In the kitchen while waiting for the water to boil, in the car after running errands, in the 5 minutes before getting out of bed, in the evenings when the house finally grew quiet and the noise of her thoughts grew louder. No one else saw the internal tug of war. No one else knew how often she felt overstretched. No one else knew how many nights she lay awake staring at the ceiling, trying to calm a heart that felt too tired to keep pretending. Her silent battle wasn't one traumatic event. It was the quiet accumulation of months of pressure, years of expectations, and a lifetime of being the strong one. She had become good at performing strength, good at holding her voice steady in conversations, good at encouraging others even when she couldn't encourage herself. But her silent battle sounded like this: I don't know how long I can keep carrying this. I can't afford to fall apart. Everyone depends on me. Who do I depend on? I feel invisible and exhausted at the same time. Why does God feel quiet right now? One afternoon, she sat in her car after finishing errands. She was parked in the grocery lot. She was supposed to drive home, but she didn't start the engine. She just sat there with her hands on the steering wheel and her eyes staring into nothing. It wasn't a breakdown. It wasn't a dramatic moment. It was just stillness. The kind of stillness that happens when your heart is overwhelmed but you're too tired to cry. She whispered, "God, I don't know what's happening to me. I feel like I'm losing pieces of myself." It wasn't a prayer as much as a surrender. She didn't even know exactly what she was asking for. She just needed to say something to someone because she didn't feel like she could say it to anyone else. And in that quiet moment, something happened. Not externally, not in the car, not in the world around her, but inside her spirit. Not a voice, not a vision, not a thunderbolt. Just a subtle awareness she couldn't shake. "I see you." It wasn't her thought. It wasn't her imagination. It felt like God had stepped into the car with her. Not to fix everything, not to remove the weight immediately, but to acknowledge it. There is a kind of healing that begins simply by knowing you're not unseen. She didn't suddenly become strong again. She didn't suddenly feel peace. But she did feel something shift. Like God was placing a gentle hand under the place where her heart was sagging. In the days that followed, nothing in her circumstances changed, but everything in her perspective did. She began noticing where God was with her in ways she had overlooked. She noticed that the moment she woke up tired, there was still a quiet strength helping her stand. She noticed that the fear she carried didn't spiral as intensely as before. She noticed that her anxiety, though still present, was losing its grip. She realized her battle wasn't happening in the absence of God. It was happening in the presence of God. She just hadn't recognized it because the battle was so quiet and God was working so gently. Silent battles sometimes make you think God has stepped back, when in reality, He has stepped closer than you've ever realized. And here's the part of her story that mirrors the stories of many. She didn't come out of her silent battle overnight. There wasn't a single moment of breakthrough. But there was a gradual strengthening, an unseen rebuilding, a restoration that happened layer by layer. She learned that God's comfort often arrives in subtle forms. A verse that suddenly feels alive again, a moment of unexpected calm, a breath that doesn't feel as heavy, a reassurance that rises in the heart with no human source. What changed her most was the understanding that God was not waiting at the finish line. He was sitting in the front seat of her parked car, in the kitchen, in the moments between responsibilities, in the half-asleep prayers, in the sighs she released without realizing they were prayers. Her battle hadn't been silent to Him. Her exhaustion wasn't invisible to Him. Her weakness wasn't judged by Him. Her tears weren't lost on Him, and slowly she began to see the truth. What she thought was her breaking point was actually her turning point. What she thought was emotional failure was actually spiritual formation. What she thought was loneliness was God drawing her into intimacy. What she thought was too heavy was exactly the weight God intended to lift for her. Her story is not unique. It is the story of millions who walk through life carrying pain that no one sees but God understands completely. It is your story too. In the ways you can't express, in the thoughts you've been trying to manage, in the emotions you've been trying to stabilize. And the same God who met her in the quiet is meeting you in yours. Not in thunder, not in fire, not in earthquake, but in the gentle whisper. The one Elijah heard when he was too exhausted to keep pretending. Silent battles are heavy because they take place where your heart is the most vulnerable, but they are holy because they are the very places where God begins to restore you the most deeply. He is not waiting for you to speak loudly. He is listening to the tremble behind your silence. And He is holding you even in the moments. What God does in the battles you never speak about, silent battles, feel like the kind of struggles God should speak loudly into. And yet, strangely, they often come with more quietness than clarity. Not because God is absent, but because the work He does in the hidden places is different from the work He does in the visible ones. When you are fighting a silent battle, You're not the only one moving quietly. God is too. He doesn't come rushing in with noise and spectacle. He comes in with nearness, a closeness that doesn't always feel dramatic, but is unmistakably sacred. One of the first things God does in the battles you hide is lean toward your weakness instead of away from it. Humans often take distance from what they don't understand. God draws closer to what others cannot see. He sees the weariness behind your smile long before you admit you're tired. He sees the worry behind your silence long before you find the courage to pray about it. He sees the weight behind your responsibilities long before anyone else notices you're carrying too much. There is no moment, not one sigh, not one sleepless night, not one quiet tear that slips past his awareness. And yet God doesn't simply observe your silent battle. He enters it. He sits in the places where your heart is heaviest. He stands in the middle of the questions you don't know how to ask. He surrounds the fears you haven't been able to put into words. He holds the parts of you that have been shaking for months. God does not need your explanation to begin his comfort. He does not need your perfect prayer to begin his healing. He does not need your strength to begin his work. He meets you exactly where you are, in the unspoken, in the unclear, in the overwhelming, in the fragile. And when he meets you, he begins doing something deeply precious. He listens to the things you never say out loud. It's easy to imagine God listening to sermons, to bold prayers, to confident declarations of faith. But the truth is, he listens more closely to the quietest places in you. He hears the words you swallow because you don't want to sound dramatic. He hears the thoughts you silence because you don't want to be afraid anymore. He hears the longings you bury because you don't know if you're allowed to want more. Before your pain becomes a sentence, God has already understood the paragraph. Before your fear becomes a confession, God has already begun working in the background. Before your exhaustion becomes visible, God has already stepped into the unseen to steady you. He doesn't wait until the battle becomes loud enough for heaven to take notice. He responds to the pressure you're under long before your circumstances reveal it. And while he listens, he also protects you in ways you rarely recognize. Silent battles often start in the mind, with spiraling thoughts, internal pressure, or fears that multiply before you can stop them. Without God, these mental battles could become overwhelming. But God intervenes long before the spiral consumes you. He redirects your thinking when you don't know why. He interrupts an anxious thought mid-sentence. He calms your breathing when fear is rising. He gives you a moment of clarity just when confusion was tightening its grip. Most people never realize how much God shields their mind until they look back and see how many moments could have gone differently if he hadn't been there. He fights for your peace even when you can't feel it. At the same time, God also rebuilds you quietly. Human rebuilding often looks busy. Big plans, loud decisions, visible actions. But God's rebuilding is subtle, layered, like a craftsman working from the inside out. You don't always notice when it starts, but you start waking up slightly less overwhelmed. Your chest feels a little lighter than it used to. Your fears lose a bit of their sharpness. Your heart doesn't race as quickly in certain moments. Your tears don't fall as often. Your hope, fragile as it is, begins to breathe again. That's God rebuilding you. He doesn't force you into peace. He grows peace inside you. He doesn't push you into strength. He restores strength to you. He doesn't demand clarity from you. He slowly reveals it in layers like dawn creeping into a dark room. And as he rebuilds you, he also fights for you in the unseen. Silent battles are not just emotional, they are spiritual. There are attacks you never see, pressures you never noticed forming, discouragements that tried to take root but couldn't because God blocked them before they ever reached your heart. He closes doors that would harm you. He opens doors you didn't even know existed. He rearranges circumstances so that harm turns into protection and delays turn into divine timing. There are battles you never fought because God fought them for you. There are burdens you never carried because God lifted them before they reached you. There are people you didn't lose sleep over because God handled what you couldn't see. Silent battles may be invisible to others, but they trigger heaven's activity in profound ways. And perhaps the most beautiful thing God does in your silent battle is this. He stays. He doesn't rush your healing. He doesn't get tired of your questions. He doesn't criticize your slowness. He doesn't shame your vulnerability. He doesn't compare your process to anyone else's. He stays for the entire battle. From the first unspoken ache to the final breath of relief. He stays through the confusion, through the fatigue, through the numbness, through the nights that feel endless, through the mornings that feel heavy, through the days when you wonder if you're ever going to feel like yourself again. He stays because you matter. He stays because he loves you. He stays because his presence is not a reward for strength, but a remedy for weakness. And when the battle is finally over, when you look back at this season, you won't just see the pain, you'll see the preservation, the protection, the presence, the moments you should have fallen apart but didn't, the nights you should have lost hope but somehow didn't, the days you didn't think you could get through but did, because God was carrying you in ways you couldn't see. Your silent battle may feel hidden, but nothing about it is hidden from God. And his response, gentle, steady, powerful, is already shaping the healing that you're beginning to feel inside. The purpose. Hidden inside the silent battles you never chose. If silent battles were pointless, God would never allow them. He is too intentional, too wise, too loving to let his children walk through pain that carries no weight, no meaning, no purpose. But silent battles do something that loud seasons never could. They work in the deepest places of your soul, the places applause never touches, the places achievements never reach, the places distractions can't follow. They form you quietly, slowly, deliberately, with the kind of precision that only heaven understands. Silent battles have a way of stripping life down until only what matters remains. Everything unnecessary begins to fall away. Everything loud begins to quiet. Everything artificial begins to fade. And what's left in that sacred stillness is the real you. The you God is shaping, the you God is strengthening, the you God is calling deeper. One of the purposes of a silent battle is to bring you back to the part of yourself that got buried under responsibility, buried under expectations, buried under busyness, buried under the pressure to stay strong. Silent battles stop you long enough to finally hear the sound of your own soul again, the part of you God speaks to most. And it's in those quiet, fragile moments where he whispers truths that you were too busy, too tired, or too overwhelmed to hear before. He reminds you, you're not alone. I have not forgotten you. My plans for you have not changed. You are more held than you realize. You don't have to keep everything together. You can lean on me. Silent battles reveal how much of your life was running on your effort instead of God's strength. Not because you intended to, but because strong people often forget that they are allowed to rest. God uses these hidden struggles to gently pull you away from self-reliance and back into dependence on him. Not the forced dependence that comes from fear, but the peaceful dependence that comes from trust. Another purpose of silent battles is transformation. Not the surface transformation that changes circumstances, but the deep transformation that changes you. You begin to see your limits, not as flaws, but as invitations. You begin to see your weakness, not as shame, but as the doorway for God's power. You begin to see your exhaustion, not as failure, but as a sign that you've been carrying more than God intended. God transforms you not by making you stronger in human ways, but by making you stronger in spiritual ways, ways that endure storms, ways that outlast seasons, ways that sustain you even when life doesn't make sense. Silent battles purify your inner world. They burn off the false identities, the one who must be perfect, the one who must always be strong, the one who cannot make mistakes, the one who cannot ask for help, the one who must keep going no matter what. That identity was never yours to carry. It was shaped by pressure, not by God. Silent battles reveal the patterns you didn't realize were harming you, the beliefs you didn't realize were limiting you, the fears you didn't realize were guiding you, the wounds you didn't realize were still shaping you. They bring the truth to the surface, not to embarrass you, but to free you. There are moments in silent battles when God allows certain illusions to collapse, because illusions exhaust the heart. He lets false relationships fall away. He exposes unhealthy dynamics. He reveals what you've been tolerating that was draining your spirit. Not to punish, but to protect. He removes what was harming you so he can give you what will heal you. Silent battles are pruning seasons. And pruning is painful because it feels like loss. But it is actually preparation. God cuts away what cannot remain in the next version of your life. There is also a sacred purpose that many people don't see until later. Silent battles strengthen your spiritual authority. Anyone can speak faith when the room is full of people. Anyone can believe when prayers are answered quickly. Anyone can worship when life is peaceful. But silent battles build a deeper authority, a quiet authority, the kind that comes from knowing God in the hidden places. It's the kind of strength that doesn't boast, doesn't shout, doesn't need attention. It simply endures. It simply trusts. It simply knows God is who He says He is, even when feelings fluctuate and circumstances stay the same. This kind of faith cannot be manufactured. It can only be formed in the places where no one sees you except God. Silent battles also prepare you for what's coming next. They refine your discernment, sharpen your vision, elevate your maturity, stretch your capacity, and anchor your identity in God instead of in performance or people. They turn you into someone who can walk into future seasons with a grounded, steady spirit, a person who cannot be easily shaken. And maybe the most beautiful purpose of all is this: silent battles create intimacy, not the kind formed by answered prayers, but the kind formed when you discover that God stays even when you're too tired to pray, too overwhelmed to process, too weary to pretend, too uncertain to speak. Silent battles reveal the tenderness of God's presence, the God who sits with you in the quiet, who holds the pieces of your heart gently, who listens to the emotions you cannot articulate, who understands your tears without translation, who never grows tired of comforting you. They show you that you are loved not because you are strong, but because you are His. There is purpose in every silent battle. Purpose that heaven is weaving even when you see nothing happening. Purpose that will only make sense when you look back and realize, this season didn't destroy me. It rebuilt me. It deepened me. It clarified me. It made me softer and stronger. It brought me closer to God than I have ever been before. Silent battles are not interruptions to your life. They are invitations into the next version of who you are becoming in God's hands. A heaven-level perspective on your silent battle, what God sees when you can't see anything at all. When you are in a silent battle, your perspective becomes narrow. You see the pressure of the moment, the weight of the responsibilities, the exhaustion of the days, the uncertainty of the future. Your eyes land on what is immediate, the fear, the fatigue, the frustration. But heaven sees something entirely different. God does not look at your silent battle from the ground where you stand. He sees it from above, from the fullness of His wisdom, from the expanse of eternity, from the perspective of someone who knows exactly where your story is going, even when you don't. And from heaven's perspective, your silent battle is not a sign of collapse. It is a sign of construction. It is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of formation. It is not an ending. It is a beginning that your heart has not yet recognized. From heaven's view, you are not breaking down. You are being reshaped. You are not losing yourself. You are being returned to the truest version of who God created you to be. You are not being abandoned. You are being anchored. God sees your battle not as a moment of weakness, but as the place where strength is being quietly planted. Where you see tiredness, He sees a heart that has carried much and is ready to be filled again. Where you see confusion, He sees a soul being guided into deeper clarity. Where you see delay, He sees the perfect timing of your unfolding. Where you see fear, He sees a future where that fear will no longer have power. Where you see emptiness, He sees the exact space where He is preparing to pour new purpose. God does not see you the way you see yourself. He does not measure you by your exhaustion, your uncertainty, your tears, your silence. He measures you by your worth, your calling, your destiny, your potential, your eternal identity in Him. He sees the version of you that struggles, but he also sees the version of you that is emerging, stronger, deeper, steadier, wiser. He sees the ending of this season even while you're only standing in the middle. And from his perspective, nothing about your battle is wasted. He sees how every moment of pressure is producing endurance inside you. He sees how every tear is softening the hardened parts of your heart so that compassion can grow in places where pain once lived. He sees how every unanswered prayer is teaching you to trust him in a way you never had to trust him before. He sees how every moment of loneliness is creating space for an intimacy with him that only the quiet seasons can form. He sees what is being shaped, not just what is being shaken. He sees who you will become because of this battle, not who you have been while carrying it. Heaven does not look at your silent battle and see someone who is falling behind. Heaven sees someone who is being positioned. Heaven does not see someone who is failing. Heaven sees someone who is being refined. Heaven does not see someone who lacks faith. Heaven sees someone whose faith is being deepened through fire and silence. Heaven does not see someone who is forgotten. Heaven sees someone who is being gently led into a chapter they are not yet strong enough to carry, but will be. Even the timing you resent is the timing God is using to shape the version of you that your future requires. You feel delayed. He says, "You are right on schedule." You feel overlooked. He says, "I am watching every detail." You feel weak. He says, "My strength is becoming your strength." You feel unsure. He says, "I am steady enough for both of us." You feel empty. He says, "I am preparing to fill you." You feel lost. He says, "I know the way." You feel tired. He says, "Rest, because I am carrying what you cannot." From heaven's perspective, your silent battle is not the place where you fall apart. It is the place where God holds you together. It is not the place where you fail. It is the place where he forms you. It is not the season where God withdraws. It is the season where he draws so close that one day you will look back and realize you were never truly alone for even a moment. Heaven's perspective is not limited by emotion. It is not clouded by fear. It is not affected by exhaustion. It is not confused by uncertainty. Heaven sees truth. Heaven sees purpose. Heaven sees beyond what hurts. Heaven sees beyond what is missing. Heaven sees beyond what you cannot make sense of. And heaven sees something you don't. You are winning a battle that looks invisible, but is changing you visibly. God is shaping a version of you that you will be grateful for on the other side of this season. You may feel like everything is unraveling, but God sees that everything unnecessary is being removed so the essential parts of you can breathe again. You may feel like everything is shaking, but God sees that only the unsteady things are falling away so that what is eternal in you can remain. You may feel like you're losing your grip, but God sees that his grip on you has never been stronger. From heaven's perspective, your silent battle is holy ground, not because it's easy, but because God is in it. And he is working in ways you will only understand when this silent season becomes your testimony. How you walk forward from here. The quiet way. God leads you into your next season. When a silent battle begins to loosen its grip, you don't rise up dramatically. You don't leap into joy overnight. You don't suddenly feel like a brand new person. You emerge slowly, quietly, tenderly, like someone waking up from a long, heavy sleep, blinking at the light, stretching what was tight, feeling life return in places that had been numb for too long. And that's the first truth about walking forward. You don't have to rush your healing. God is not measuring your pace. He's not impatient with your timeline. He's not asking you to get over it. He's leading you gently, like a shepherd who knows how long the valley has been and how tired your soul feels. The way forward is not about speed. It's about surrender. It's about walking with the one who has already carried the weight that almost broke you. Moving forward after a silent battle begins with giving yourself permission to breathe again, to exist without pressure, to feel without shame, to slow down enough to notice you are still here because God has kept you here. You walk forward by walking lighter, not because circumstances are easy, but because you finally realize you were never asked to carry life alone. God begins to teach you a new rhythm, one that is far less about endurance and far more about connection. You start noticing small things that didn't register before, peace that shows up in moments it shouldn't, strength that appears on days you expected to collapse, clarity that breaks through after long confusion, moments of gratitude between breaths, a softness returning to your spirit after being hardened by survival. These are signs that your heart is healing, even when your life still feels complicated. Walking forward also means you stop apologizing for your sensitivity. Your heart isn't weak. It's awake. It's perceptive. It's spiritually alive. God never intended for you to become indifferent. He intended for you to become discerning. And silent battles sharpen discernment in ways prosperity never could. You begin sensing what brings you peace and what doesn't, what drains your spirit and what nourishes it, what relationships are safe and which ones only pull from you, what conversations matter and which ones you need to quietly release. You walk forward not by hardening your heart but by honoring it. And as you do, God gently redirects your steps. He guides you away from places where your soul was slowly suffocating. He moves you out of environments that only valued your strength but never your humanity. He steers you away from roles that demanded you to be someone you were never called to be. He leads you into spaces where your heart can breathe, where your gifts can live, where your spirit can rest, where your peace can stay. Walking forward also means learning to recognize God's provision in less dramatic ways. Sometimes His provision is a closed door that protects you from something you would have chosen out of exhaustion. Sometimes His provision is a slow season that gives your soul time to repair. Sometimes His provision is a person who speaks one sentence that becomes the lifeline you needed that day. Sometimes His provision is simply the comfort of knowing He has not let go of you. Your next season begins not with a breakthrough that shakes the earth, but with a decision to trust again, one small moment at a time. Trust that God is not finished with you. Trust that nothing you walked through will be wasted. Trust that the weight you carried has shaped strength in you that you will understand later. Trust that God is leading you even when the path isn't fully visible. Moving forward also means you stop fighting battles you were never meant to fight alone. You begin handing your fears to God instead of managing them internally. You begin releasing your worries instead of rehearsing them. You begin acknowledging your needs instead of burying them. You begin asking for help instead of carrying everything silently. This isn't weakness, this is wisdom, this is maturity. This is what healed people do. This is what beloved people do. As you walk forward, God also restores parts of you that the silent battle had stolen. He restores your voice, the one you silenced to keep the peace. He restores your hope, the one that dimmed but never died. He restores your joy, the kind that is deeper than emotion and stronger than circumstance. He restores your courage, not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that keeps showing up even when the heart trembles. He restores your identity, not based on what people needed from you, but based on who He says you are. And most importantly, God restores your ability to feel held. Because the truth is, you were never meant to walk forward in your own strength. You walk forward with the God who stayed with you in the silence, who carried you when you were tired, who protected you when you were unaware, who comforted you without being asked, who fought for you when you had no energy left, who whispered to you when words were too heavy to speak. The next season of your life will not require the version of you that survived the silent battle. It will require the version of you that was shaped by it. A wiser you, a softer you, a steadier you, a more surrendered you, a more spiritually grounded you. You don't walk forward as someone crushed. You walk forward as someone rebuilt. You don't walk forward as someone forgotten. You walk forward as someone chosen. You don't walk forward as someone abandoned. You walk forward as someone accompanied by the God who never left. And step by step, day by day, breath by breath, you will feel your soul returning. Not to who you were before the battle, but to who God was forming you to be through the battle. This is how you walk forward, quietly, gently, wisely, with God's hand beneath your weakness and His voice guiding your future. What God wants you to understand about your silent battle today: you've spent so long carrying your battle quietly that you began to believe the silence meant God was far away. But here is the turning point, the moment everything shifts. God has been closer to your silent battle than you have been to your own breath. Every tear you hid, He saw. Every fear you swallowed, He heard. Every moment you held yourself together, He strengthened you. Every night you were awake in the dark, He sat beside you. Your silent battle was never silent to Him. You thought you were fighting alone, but God was fighting the parts you couldn't see. You thought nothing was happening, but God was rebuilding what you didn't know was broken. You thought you were stuck in a season of survival, but God was preparing you for a season of restoration. And today, in this moment, God is saying, you can stop carrying this by yourself. Not because you're weak, but because you were never meant to do life without Him. Not because you're failing, but because He's ready to take what has been draining your soul. Not because you need to prove anything, but because He wants you to rest in His strength. This is the shift. You're moving from self-holding to God-holding, from silent endurance to divine companionship, from internal exhaustion to supernatural rest. This is the moment where your burden becomes His, your weakness becomes His strength, and your silence becomes the place where His voice begins to speak again. Lord, step into the quiet places of my life. Lord, you see every hidden part of this heart. You see the battles no one else sees, the fears that never made it into words, the weight that has been carried in silence. Tonight I lay it all before you. Step into the quiet places of my life. Step into the rooms of my heart where exhaustion has been living. Step into the thoughts that have felt too heavy to hold. Where there has been fear, bring peace. Where there has been confusion, bring clarity. Where there has been loneliness, bring your nearness. Where there has been pressure, bring rest. Lord, remind this heart that it was never meant to fight alone. Wrap your strength around every weakness and breathe hope into every tired place. Stay close tonight. Stay close tomorrow. Stay close in every silent battle until silence becomes strength and weakness becomes testimony. In Jesus' name, amen. You are not leaving this video the way you arrived. Before you go, receive this blessing. May the Lord who sees you in the silence surround you with peace that cannot be shaken. May He lift the weight you've been carrying and replace it with a strength that feels lighter than anything you've known. May the God who never left your side guide your steps, steady your heart, restore your joy, and fill your days with a quiet confidence that comes from being held by Him. You are not leaving this moment alone. God is with you. God is holding you. And God is carrying what you no longer can. May His presence follow you, protect you, and keep you, today and always.